for Russian, Dr Haywood.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. 2 weeks ago in another place I expressed my deep regret at the language and the tone employed by the Chief Minister as he spoke about the resignation of Mr Hooper as Health Minister. OK, I'll admit we all lose our cool sometimes. Mr Hooper's resignation was typically dramatic and clearly unexpected in some quarters. Nevertheless, in the immediate aftermath of Mr Hooper's statement in the other place, the Chief Minister stood and thanked the outgoing Minister for his commitment and wished him well for the future. He admitted there was an idealistic bridge too far for Mr Hooper to overcome, and it was a quickly thought out response, but it was measured, proportional and even tempered. But Mr Speaker, something seemed to happen overnight between the sitting finishing on the Tuesday and restarting on the Wednesday. Not just Mr Hooper trying to get to Jersey. By the following morning, we had an astonishing statement from the Chief Minister that included accusations about a stitch-up, accusations of contrived planning. I've thought about this a little bit. I'd argue that by its very definition, planning must be deliberately created, and therefore planning must always be contrived. I'm not sure I've experienced or seen a plan that spontaneously appears. I wish they did. Mr Speaker, as a leading proponent of reflecting on my choice of words, you'll be pleased to know that I reflect on the words of others too. So we had mentions of dead cat strategies. I'm not really sure how Mr Hooper calling out the real threats that he saw to healthcare and resigning from his position could ever really count as a dead cat strategy. A successful deployment of a dead cat strategy is one that gets you to focus totally on the dead cat and miss the fact that something else is happening elsewhere. You focus on the dead cat to the extent that you miss the elephant that walks through the room and out of the door. If Mr Hooper were indeed to have been deploying a dead cat strategy, then surely it ranks as one of the worst exemplars in the history of Tynwald. Mr Hooper's resignation has instead focused many minds on the Department of Health and Social Care, on Manx Care, and on the future of health and social care services and the finance around it. This was definitely not a successful dead cat strategy. It was not even a passing attempt at one. It was entirely the opposite. It was the equivalent of launching warning flares, sending distress signals, and tapping out an SOS on the Marconi unit. But it sounds so much worse to accuse Mr Hooper of unscrupulous political tactics. And that accusation was incongruous, given that just over 12 hours before, the Chief Minister had recognised there were ideological challenges that had actually prompted Mr Hooper's response. The words spoken by the Chief Minister in the cold light of morning, after a night where one would have hoped that there'd been some reflection, seemed to take an entirely unsavoury direction. Double-edged tweets? I'm not sure what that is, but I've got a really nice sword that's got a double edge on it. Gaslighting the other place and the public. Accusing the former minister of not recognising financial risks, and we've even heard this morning that they were clearly recognised. Mr Speaker, I was taken aback by the unstatesmanlike language that we witnessed in the other place, and I was taken aback by the timing, because it did come after a night where there should have been some ability to reflect and recover. What we witnessed seems to me to be a lack of self-control, lack of restraint, and personally targeting Mr Hooper, and that is not befitting of our head of government. It was crass, it was ill-phrased, it was petulant, and it was shameful. And if the accusations about Mr Hooper were true and well-founded, one is bound to ask how has it taken the Chief Minister so long to work out that there are clear differences between himself and the Minister with one of the biggest departmental budgets and which carries the greatest risk. Why did the Chief Minister, as the leader of the government, not act sooner? And it's off the back of that unsavoury experience that we're faced with this motion today. It's a motion to discuss confidence in the Chief Minister, but it is being interpreted by Comin and the public, my constituents, as a vote of no confidence in the government, the island plan and our direction of travel. And there's the rub for me. I actually think we have in place ministers who are doing a good job, or at least as best as they can, given some of the issues they're tackling. We know there would be political repercussions for departmental members who consider voting to support a no confidence motion. It's impossible to be in a department trying to support good practice and policy making, trying to effect change and growth, and at the same time vote against Comin and bring the whole system crashing down around our ears. I wasn't elected to sit around. I was elected to serve and contribute, to support public services, to address problems with poverty, housing and our economy. We are 3 years into this administration and voting no confidence in the Chief Minister, who as a man of honour I'm sure would resign if he lost this vote today, and that would bring about the fall of government and would depose ministers, just seems to me like a step too far. We know those ministers are tackling some really important topics and making progress on some things that have been stalled for years. It would, as Mr Ashford has commented, throw us into an election process, selection of new ministers. It would delay us for weeks before those new ministers get a hold on their briefs. And in short, all the momentum that has built up during the course of this administration would be lost. I know that not all the decisions we have to make are easy, and certainly not all decisions are popular, especially if the commentators that seem to have endless hours to spend on X or Facebook or ringing the man in line have anything to say about what we do. I know not everyone supports the island plan, and to be fair, there are parts that I disagree with. But, and as Mr Hooper will have no hesitation in telling anyone who'll listen, in the absence of party politics, Manx politics is always going to be dominated by the need to build consensus, to compromise and to adapt. And the island plan is, for many of us, a compromise solution to agree a general way forward. One might indeed argue that it is the ultimate in a contrived plan. Just as consensus is necessary to come up with this plan for 5 years of this administration, it's also a constituent element of how we interact in this place and in the other place. Mr Speaker, there is no need for petulant statements. It does not befit this House, the other place, or the communities that we represent to witness personal attacks on the character of other members. Mr Speaker, as a long-standing reflector on my choice of words, I urge the Chief Minister to choose his language more carefully in the future. I urge him to act in a manner that befits his position. Any repeat of the intemperate displays that we witnessed a fortnight ago will probably further undermine the confidence of this Honourable House in his ability to lead this government. I didn't originally support Mr Cannon as Chief Minister, but here today I'm feeling like I'm forced into doing so because otherwise I will lose a council of ministers that I have a great deal of respect for. And I would face losing the political work that I'm doing to make things better. Chief Minister, you are in a position of responsibility as the head of our government. I would urge you to consider that how we communicate matters, how we treat other honourable members matters, how we lead matters. How you do those things matter. And I'd urge you to consider trying to do a bit better, please.